Oh, welcome to the Sharpe Way Show. So happy to have you here on this awesome night, a little bit past 7 p.m. on the East Coast. Yes, I am back to my 7 o'clock like I should be all the time, but I'm damn always late. But I couldn't be late this time. Not this time. I couldn't be late because if I would have been late, Adam Moreno said he was going to come to my house and slap me across the face. That's what he told me. He said, I'm going to come to you late. I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to slap you across the face. I was like, I don't want to be slapped by Adam. So I literally said I'm going to be on time this time because he's a hardcore monster. Why am I talking about Adam Moreno? Because tonight we're going to be talking about the RFK Jr. contingency. Does that sound cool? The RFK Jr. supporters, the voter base. And are they really going to, as people say, really affect this election? Are they really going to be the ones that make that shift or not? And I have with me the man who now luckily will not be smacking me. He is a video content creator. He is a guy you'll see him on Twitter. You will see him on YouTube. He talks about politics, news, all types of cool things. The man himself, Adam Moreno. How are you, sir?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing good, and I'm not getting slapped by you, so I'm being good. Oh, you were warming up? You were ready to go? You were warming up? Okay.
I have a bad shoulder, but
I'm lucky. Okay, I'm lucky. I'm thanks for coming, my friend. I appreciate it.
I'm so happy to be here. Very grateful.
And if you want to follow him, you may follow him on X at Adam C. Moreno. Please do so if you want to. That's where a lot of his goodies are. You also check him out on YouTube at the same name. So let me ask you, you kind of early on jumped on the RFK train. Earlier than some, later than others, but pretty early on. And when you jumped on, you were pretty forward. Like you were like, this is the guy. What got you to that? What made you go, this is the guy?
So I've been, making videos for a while, right? Probably for the past like 4 years have I been consistently posting videos for the most part, like on TikTok, about like one video a day. I did that for so long. And a lot of the conversations were more, having to do with what's happening in society, what's more cultural. But every once in a while, I was making these political videos, right? They were never really too, much of substance, but I did kind of always have a voice there. And
Okay.
I was always really clear about like, I'm not really for the right. I'm not really for the left, right? I'm just for people. That was always what my posture was, because I just didn't like how isolating both of these camps were. I just felt like every Republican hated Democrats and every Democrat hated the Republicans. And I still somewhat feel that. I still think that's a little, there's some truth to it. It's funny because it's true, right? That's what they say. And then RFK Jr., I remember literally like just being in the restroom, getting ready to, shower and stuff. And on my TikTok, I saw that RFK Jr. announces his campaign to run as a Democrat. And I was like, oh my gosh, this must have been like October of 2023. No, sorry, October of like 2022, because he started earlier. Right. And it was just wild to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, a Kennedy? At this point, I didn't know much about him. Right. I think I knew that maybe he was a lawyer, but I was just excited about having another option, because I knew I was fairly unhappy
Didn't you know that
Biden.
Greens and Libertarians existed? You didn't know that?
Not really, not in a meaningful way.
That is such an interesting thing you said. I don't mean, I gotta bug you for a second, because
no, go for it.
What you just talked about is why I was happy that RFK Jr. was running. People like, Larry, why would you want RFK Jr. running when there's libertarians running? Why would you libertarian? Because you are the reason. Because most of America is more like you than like me. Like, I'm in this. Like, I know the libertarians who are running. I know who's running in like North Carolina, and like I know that stuff. The average person has no clue. And you jumping on the RFK Jr. train means now you're open to third parties. So that means next year you might vote Green. You might vote Libertarian, because now you're open to third parties. And that's the point that I was telling people. RFK Jr. running this year is good for all independent parties. In fact, right now, who's getting all the attacks? Jill Stein.
Yeah, it's
RFK
crazy.
Jr. is good for the Green Party. Like, he was able to get the Green Party now, the attacks that he was getting. Now she's more valid. I mean, I think it was a good thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I mean, I'm glad you said that because it validates what I was saying for the past year. Go ahead, please.
Yes, but even with RFK Jr., like again, like that wasn't him declaring his independence. That was just him declaring his campaign for the he was seeking the Democratic nomination. So at that point, he was going up against, President Biden, right? And that's what was getting me excited. And then whenever he slowly started shifting this way, but by declaring his independence, and now he's still an independent, but he's really more in alignment with President Trump at this point of the race.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of my progression, and then I just started learning more about Kennedy. Like, the more he spoke, the more interested I got in him, and it got to the point where I'm
So
like,
let me ask one more piece now. The more he spoke, generally speaking, he didn't do that many campaign stops. That wasn't his
"Oh, yeah.
style.
Mhm.
He wasn't able to get on most mainstream media. So when you're saying hear him speak, or you're talking podcasts, aren't you?
I was primarily talking about his the media that I saw on his TikTok, right? Which
Okay.
some of it was, cut from podcasts, which I thought were great. A lot of it was just, him in front of a camera speaking about some sort of policy. Then you had his like address to the nation, right? His how he sees the State of the Union. And there was a ton of these like monumental conversations. Like I believe his State of the Union got like 10 million views in like 5 days on TikTok,
Mm,
and this was like a 10-minute video.
right.
That was crazy. It was so good, he even
Okay.
uploaded it in Spanish, you know? Like, it was crazy. So,
Okay. So at
literally
this point, you're liking him. You're liking the independence part. You think that's
Mhm.
cool. Did you start looking into other independent parties at the time, or no? You were just like Kennedy, and that's it. Oh, did the idea that he went independent, did it make you think, oh, is he the only one, or not?
No, at this point, whenever he went independent, my initial thought was, "Why?" Like,
Okay.
"Why did this happen?" Like, what was this man exposed to? And it's ironic that I use that word because he wasn't really exposed, he was more like suffocated. Like
Yes, yes, that's
it
true.
was it
Yes, you're
was
right.
almost suffocated.
You're right.
So that was the real question. Then I started going down this rabbit hole of like who was trying to silence this man and why? Like he was wildly popular on TikTok. He had more followers
Mm,
than like President Trump didn't have a TikTok presence. President Biden, he had a Biden HQ, that
mm,
had like it was so lackluster, had like 300,000 followers. And then, President Trump entered like after RK has already been on there, he had already had like what 3 million followers. And then
got
President
it.
Trump posted one TikTok that got like 70 million views and got like 5 million followers at that point. And then Kamala Harris, became presumably the nominee. And then she
Right.
started getting like, and now I think she has like what 4 million followers on TikTok, which is great. But that was like the main platform
More
that
than
I was
I
consuming.
have.
Yeah, she has a
Yeah.
ton. But when you have a
Yes.
machine, it's easier.
It is easier, 100%. Well, Kim's on your side. Kim says, thank you for being a member, Kim. RFK opened my eyes to exactly how corrupt the Democratic Party truly is. I think that's kind of what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, completely. And the thing is, I feel like I speak for a lot of people when I say this. I think R.F. Kennedy Jr. has such a wealth of knowledge and I feel like I can only describe it as an aura that whenever he talks,
Hmm.
I feel like he doesn't sound, conspiratorial. He just sounds like he just lays out the facts,
But the
right? He's like,
Democrats say literally the opposite. They say he's a kook. He's
mhm.
Mr. Conspiracy Theory. Everything is a lie. They literally say the opposite of what you're saying.
But
Are
you
you?
see,
So, wait a minute. Square that circle for me.
well, the thing is, R.F. Kennedy Jr., he doesn't just say, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. He says, "This is what happens." Okay? Like
Okay.
10 years ago, I did this. They responded with this. This is how X, Y, and Z goes. Or you know what? In like the 1990s, this happened, and this person was appointed to this position, and that's why they're feeling this way. Like, he gives such a thorough analysis, and he does so much of the research that the majority of people won't do, but he just lays it out, and he just leaves a trail of information that people could follow, right? Like, just imagine a trail of information that just leads you to this particular conclusion of an argument, and it's almost like impossible to refuse. And it's like, oh my gosh, the Democratic Party was silencing him. Oh my gosh, there are PACs that were fed tens of
So let
millions
me
of
go one
dollars
step
that were
forward this one then.
suffocating
Hold
him.
on, let me grab a piece here. Does this make you dislike or in any way hate or dismiss Democrats more than Republicans because of that? Or you don't care about either? Has it not changed? Or do you hate Republicans more? Whatever. Has it affected how you think about the parties?
It hasn't affected how I think about Democrats, but it has affected how I think about the Democratic Party.
Okay.
Right.
Explain, please.
So the Democratic base, for the most part, because I remember Nicole Shanahan was sitting with Tucker Carlson, and they were talking about how, like, because obviously she was, the VP candidate, but they were talking about how the Democratic Party is so good at hiding things from their base. And she was describing how, like, most Democrats, they're not bad people, but they were being fed lies. They were being fed a lie that Trump is the enemy, that this person is a racist, that this person is a white supremacist, all these things. So it's like, I have to, like, to me, I separate the party from the person. And it's
Got
like,
it.
I don't think the person is the problem. I think the party is the problem.
Got
Like,
it.
I
Okay.
see people like, I see, these super delegates, these people in massive positions, and like, of course, they are part of the core issue. Like, I don't know how successful I'd be in trying to convert, someone who's just hears something from the media and they're trying to change my mind. It's like, no, like, you were lied to too. You were a victim of misinformation as well. Like, we're kind of both in
But
the same.
Democrats say that Trump's doing the misinformation, don't they? It's the Russians are coming and doing the misinformation, right? I mean, everything you're saying, literally Democrats say about RFK Jr.
I
and
know.
Trump, right?
And that's why, if you were to go to, like, Kamala Harris's, like, one of her last videos, and you just scroll through the comments, so many of them are like, enough with the gaslighting. You're doing this thing. Like, did you see that video of her when she was just in front of
Which
a
one?
rally? She was in front of a rally and she was like, so I just released my medical records. And isn't it interesting that President Trump doesn't want to release his? Or she actually says former President Trump, because she likes to throw some shade. But she's like, isn't it interesting that he doesn't release his? It tells you something, right? It tells you that he's afraid. Why doesn't he want to go on 60 Minutes? 60 Minutes is something that every major presidential candidate has done for the past, like, 50 years. Why doesn't he want to go on it? And, like, to be clear, like, President Trump has already spoken on this very candidly. He's like, I want to go, but you guys like disrespected me last time, and I'll go if you guys issue me an apology. But you see, Kamala Harris's strategy seems to be gaslighting people. Her strategy seems to just be lying directly to them. We saw it in the debate, and we're seeing it throughout her campaign. And people aren't being fooled by it. So many people on the top comments, they're like, you're doing the same thing. You're accusing Trump of hiding and running away. You're hiding. You're running away. You're not doing press conferences. You're not doing real interviews. You're doing these things that you're accusing President Trump of doing. So
Okay.
that's
So
what
let me
there's a
grab this.
difference.
This is a good transition. It's good super chat. Thank you, Peace Logic, for the $10. Definitely follow Adam. See, you have a fan. Yes, I didn't realize the level of corruption. RFK is the best. Met him in person and became part of the campaign. He is the main reason that I'll be voting MAHA. Now, thank you for that piece. I appreciate that. And by the way, guys, if anybody else wants to, you can always super chat if you want to. If you have to be watching, though, on Larry Sharpe YouTube to super chat. The only place you can super chat if you want to. It's okay, but you can subscribe wherever you're watching, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, doesn't matter. You can always subscribe or follow. That is always good. You can also become a member if you want to on Larry Sharpe YouTube by clicking the join button if you like. Always a good thing. But no matter what, please hip check, attack, whatever you do, touch the button known as like. If you don't do that, what you're saying is you hate both me and Adam. That's what you're saying. And Adam might come smack you. He might do that. So click the like button to ensure Adam doesn't come to your house and smack you. It's the only way to ensure he won't do it. So just click the like button and you will be fine. But I do want to touch his point. And his point is he's now voting MAHA. So let me move to that point, because prior to Kennedy jumping on a Trump train, there really was no MAHA.
Yeah.
That's the thing that happened after the Trump train, right? It was just Kennedy and Trump. They were two separate things, not combined. But now they kind of are. Now, when he made the jump, were you like, I'm in? Were you like, I don't know? Where was your head when he made the jump?
Well, it's funny you asked, because I actually was alive whenever RF Kennedy Jr. did his address to the nation. So me and like a bunch of my followers, we all watched it together.
Mhm.
We were consuming all this stuff. We were like, oh my gosh, did he just endorse President Trump? Did he just, he said he supported him, but what does that even mean? So like the MAHA stuff kind of came later,
Right,
right?
it did. Yep. Mhm.
But we saw some seeds being planted in that moment. And I think I started feeling really enthusiastic about the Republican Party
Mhm.
whenever RFK Jr. walked on stage alongside President Trump, right, at in Glendale, Arizona, right, the
Mhm.
day after the address to the nation, because I thought at that point everything changed. Me, as an RFK Jr. supporter, I was like, "Oh my gosh." Like, do you know how many people saw this rally? Like, this
Okay.
was everywhere. He was on the cover of the New York Post. Literally, him alongside President Trump, and at that point, people weren't against him. People were actually for him, and to me, it was like seeing, like one of my uncles finally get the recognition that he deserved. It's like
Oh, got it.
this guy that I've been so for the past, essentially 6 months, is, like, finally getting some sort of clarity and recognition and value in this national conversation of politics, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And then I started thinking about, what I mentioned last time about Glenn Powell, right? Like maybe him playing a smaller role in a larger puzzle is actually going to have more impact than him, being the large center of
Well, he just
a
put that
smaller
video out.
movement.
Was it yesterday or whenever the video he just put out? Remember that video saying he's going to be with the Department of something was behind him?
Exactly,
He just
exactly.
put that
Yeah,
video out, right?
yeah, I loved it. It
What
was
was he
great.
saying he was going to be? Was it agriculture? Was that it?
I think it was the U.S. Department of,
Agriculture.
yeah,
There we go.
exactly,
And there was something. There we go. So yes. Okay. So yeah, that's kind of fitting into what you're talking about then. So if I'm
exactly.
getting what you're saying, you were kind of on board right away. Like you saw that, you're like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah, and I guess I should give a little bit of context too, because some people say like, "Oh my gosh, like I love this guy. He's so unbiased. He just delivers the news straight." And I always try to respond to every comment I can, and I'm like, "I'm not unbiased." Like let me settle some sort of some nerves here, right? And some expectation. I'm not unbiased. I have my biases. I just try to be clear about them. Like
Mm.
people who watch my videos, like you would know that I'm a follower of Jesus. I believe in the
Mhm.
scriptures, right? That informs so much of my values, that informs part of my character, informs how I try to treat people. It informs how I even go about, like, not my
Mhm.
attacks, but my criticisms of other
Yep.
parties, right? Like it informs so much of me, right? And it's not, and even if you try to think about this conversation of like, pro-life, pro-choice, right? It's like this is when your values that are infused by your faith start to trickle down to how you see political policies,
Sure. Yep.
right? So I always say, like, I'm not unbiased, right? Am biased, but I try to be very clear about them. So
Yes. Look, me too. I'm clearly and openly a libertarian. I wear it on my sleeve.
exactly.
Absolutely, I am 100%. But yes, I try to. One thing I try to do, to your point, is I try to be very honest and open about my biases, so you know
Mhm.
where I'm coming
Yeah,
from,
exactly.
and you can say, "All right, this is Larry being libertarian." Yes,
Yeah, like no one's shocked over here.
yes. No one's
you
like,
know
"Oh, my God, that guy said he hates taxes." Duh. Exactly. Yes, of course he would say that. Yes. Let me grab another super chat if I could. Lunatic, thank you, my friend, for the $5. You make choices. Maha is a joke to me. Our elders shouldn't have become comfortable in misery and allow themselves be dictated to by government. Well, look, he's libertarian, so am I. I agree completely with what he just said, right? We should not have become lazy. But I'm not sure I would agree that Maha is a joke. And the reason why I say it is, do I think Maha is going to save the world? I don't. Do I think it can make a better country? Yes, I do. I think it can make a better country because what Ma has done in my view, and Adam, please tell me if I'm wrong here, or if you think you have another opinion here.
Okay.
I think what MAHA has done is it has allowed America to actually start talking about healthy food, healthy farming, health in general, and fixing our family that at the president's level, we just didn't talk about. We haven't talked about forever. I mean, we just didn't talk about these things. It was not even part of the conversation. And I feel like that is important. I feel it will help, but it's not going to save the world. I don't think so. But will it make a better America? I think yes. And again, just to be very clear, I agree. We've gone far too down a road of government control, lunatic. You're correct. I agree with you completely on that. But I just don't think MAHA's a joke. That's my opinion. Adam, go ahead, please.
Sure. I will say this. In the same way that, so you remember how we were talking about, actually, I won't bring that up, but in the same way that some things that happen in LA, right, like in terms of fashion, or some things that happen in New York, right, the things that happen there, because they are the epicenter of creativity, they start to become an expression of American life and American culture in general, right? So it just starts to spread. So in the same way, I actually think that by making America healthier, I think we actually could make the whole world healthier, because I believe
Okay.
America acts as the epicenter of the future, right? Like the direction that America is heading, I think has an impact. Like what's absolutely bonkers to me? There's people who watch my videos from New Zealand. There's people who watch my videos from Australia, from Germany, from all across the world. And I'm like,
True.
why are you on? Like, I don't watch things that are happening in German politics. I don't watch things that are happening in Australia. It doesn't make any sense to me. But I remember I was talking to my dad about this, and he was like, well, people watch because it affects them. Like, that's the difference. So the things that happen in America, whether we like it or not, I don't know how fast it's going to be, but I do think it's going to have an impact on the rest of the world.
All
And
right. Well,
maybe this is just my enthusiasm, my optimism, but I do believe there's truth to this.
Well, there we go. No, I'm happy. It's positive. I love that. So let me grab a couple, if I could, a couple of comments. I want to grab something from so one or two that will pop up here. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. Kim, again, thank you for being a member. She says, I see RFK was trying to challenge Biden. I was on board right off the bat. So I think a lot of people thought that, right?
I do
exactly
think that.
the same thing. Yeah. That part to me seems like a big deal. People really tend to be like, oh, he's against them. So yes. Square Table, thank you for being a member. He thinks the opposite. He's RFK Jr. was a guy who the more I looked into, the more I didn't like. He thinks the opposite. I wonder why. I feel like if you're comparing RFK Jr. to some of the other independent candidates, I could see that, right? Because if you lean more green or you lean more libertarian, clearly Chase Oliver is a better libertarian than RFK is. Clearly Jill Stein is a better green than RFK is. So if you're comparing him to those two parties, I would agree with you completely. But if you're comparing him to the major parties, that's my thing, towards Biden or Harris, I mean, I feel like he's hands down better. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Adam?
I think the conversation of better is tough, because I think if you want to put him in, all these categories among everyone, I think for one, like if you're part of the national conversation, right, then you could look at people across the board. But a lot of those guys aren't, right? So what was great about Kennedy is, for one, he was a Kennedy. He got to be on the national stage almost immediately, right, because of his name. And then what made him even more attractive was he actually had substance. He actually knew what he was talking about. He actually had a successful career behind him. Granted, there were a couple of skeletons in his closet, but who doesn't have skeletons in their closet?
Yeah, I don't mind any of them. In fact, as you know, I had to go on TV and defend a couple of those skeletons. So
it happens. It happens.
Yes.
It happens when you're trying to change the world.
Yes.
Right. So that's what I think about. And unfortunately, I don't know too much about, like Chase Oliver and people like that. Right. And part of the problem is because I never really needed to. Like they haven't been in front of my pages. They weren't on my TikToks. They weren't on my X feed. It just never popped up. And I try to have the and there's this term or there's this idea in broadcasting that if you ever want to know what to talk about that day, you just need to talk about the things that people are talking about,
Yep.
right? Like what's happening in the world and how can you make it meaningful, right? You need to elevate these existing conversations to make them, consumable for other people, right? And the problem with people like Chase Oliver, now it's different with like Jill Stein, right? Because she actually is making some waves, in
Yes.
her
She's getting the
corner.
heat in Michigan. She's getting the heat.
She really is. She really
Yep.
is. And I've actually seen a couple of her positions. I've seen a couple of her talking points, and I do think they're interesting, right? So, and that was something that I think RFK Jr. he did struggle with that later in his campaign, but in terms
Yeah.
of like getting this like name recognition right off the bat, these major media organizations like they were talking about him, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not in the best of way. Maybe they were like, "Oh, we have some guy who's challenging President Biden," but at least they're talking about him.
I agree
Right, like
completely.
he
Yes.
was there. So that
I
to
would
me
take that
was the
completely.
major difference.
All right. Let me grab a couple more super chats if I could. Again from Lunatic, $10. Thank you. Maha, if our elders didn't allow all this BS by lobbyists, followers get shots, don't eat real food, or educate their children. Being informed is a choice. Complacency, participation isn't a pass. Well, yes and no. And let me defend if I could, Lunatic. Again, you know that almost always when you and I chat, I almost always agree with you on theory because I think our theories are very close. But my issue is when you have generations of people who have been taught and believe that the FDA is always on your side, that the CDC is always correct, that they're out there and they love you and they care about you, it's difficult to get those people to change for two reasons. One, this is to Adam's earlier point. Why would they bother? The FDA has me covered. Why would I care? The CDC is taking care of me. My mom told me that. Grandma told me that. I'm good. Why should I be concerned? I think that's one piece that we have to get. I do think, though, and again, part of this is because of the MAHA piece, others too, but more people are saying maybe the FDA isn't the only answer. Maybe the CDC isn't. Maybe there is a corporate capture that libertarians have been talking about for 50 years. Finally, people are like, hey, corporate capture is a thing. Again, libertarians have been talking about this for years. Finally, that's coming to play. So I guess what I'm trying to do is give some of the people, you're saying it's not a pass. Agreed. It's not a pass, but you have to expect a certain amount from the average person. And the average person follows what the community does. And as more government comes in, community goes away and you start to trust only government.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's how I feel. Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I agree for the most part. Like lobbyists are a problem. Like
Yes.
I remember RFK Jr. was talking about no, I think this is actually Callie Means and Casey Means on RFK
Okay.
Jr. Right? They were talking about how at the end of the day, they're these like congressmen. Like they only have the information that they get from these bills and their phones aren't ringing. So their next line is these lobbyists who go into the door and they're like, hey, actually, you can't do this because that's terrible. It'll do
Right.
this. And then they show them these studies that they don't know are bought and paid for. And, these congressmen, they're just trying to do their job and do the best for the area that they represent, so
I don't buy that at
they,
all. Nope. These congressmen are grifting to get cash.
maybe, right? Maybe.
Yeah.
Again, this is my
That's my
optimism
libertarianism
here.
coming out right immediately. Yes. They're just grifting to get cash. I'm sorry. It's coming out screaming. So, yes.
I don't know. I do think a lot of these people who are elected officials try to do good, and I think the ones
Maybe.
who don't really just create kind of a bad space for the ones who are there to try to make the world a better place. In the same way that
You are a kinder
whenever
man than me.
whenever kind of bad things happen in like the police force, it's like it's one bad cop who acted, maybe in a way that he shouldn't
Oh,
have
you're going to
acted.
trigger
Now he's
my
on a
audience. You're
national
going to
stage.
so trigger my
Like
audience.
we
Here come
don't
the comments.
like there's just one it was just maybe it was just one experience, but those, hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of police officers who always put their life on the line every single day, like they wear their badge, they're out there really trying to make a difference in their community. Like, I don't know. I don't know if average Joe is really trying to be shady or if he's just trying to
No. I'm
protect his
I'm gonna
community.
I'm on your side when it comes to that. I don't think cops are bad or good. I think cops are just human beings. That's what they are. The human beings, everybody else, and there's bad ones and good ones. I think you have if you have a crappy system, you have crappy outcomes. You have a good system, you have good outcomes.
That's
I
a good way
totally
to
agree
see
with that.
it.
I do believe that, right? Generally speaking, the better your systems are, the better outcomes you have. Generally speaking, the worse your systems, the worse your outcomes. Generally speaking.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think cops are just human beings trying to do a job like anybody else. I do believe that, and people get mad because people want me to be like, "Oh, cops are bad," or "Back to blue." I'm like, no, back to good ones and hammer the bad ones. That's it. That's where I am. So yeah, and better systems. But I do want to push back on one piece. Congressmen aren't that. Senators aren't average. All
Okay.
of them are millionaires. All of them are
All of
elitists.
them?
Every single one of them.
You're kidding.
Nope.
Is
Every
that true?
single one of them. Yes. Every single. Right now, if I remember it, last I checked, AOC is worth $5 million.
Okay. AO's, I don't think she's representative of the entire.
She
Come on.
hold on. Before she was a congressperson,
Hmm.
she was a bartender. She
Yeah.
was
It was.
not a millionaire.
Mhm.
And her
Yeah.
salary is about $170 some odd thousand a year.
Hmm.
How are you worth $5 million when your salary is $170 some odd thousand a year? And you
I
were
hear
a
you.
bartender before you became a congressman.
I hear you.
Yes.
Something that I
So
think
they're not
about is
cops. I'm not going to connect congressmen to cops.
I feel like I see the heart of public service in them. Right, and that to me is the connection to cops. That to me is the connection to teachers. They are different. They are exposed to probably way more corruption than police officers are. You know, I don't know if there's like what is it like 2,500 lobbyists who are actually on the ground on Capitol Hill trying to convert opinions
Yep.
of congressmen. Like, yeah, there's corruption there,
Yeah.
right? But then there's people like Jeff Jackson. Have you seen him?
No, I
I've
don't
seen
think so.
Jeff Jackson on TikTok. Well, he recently got elected, no, probably like 2, 3 years ago now. And whenever he got elected, he was sharing his entire process on TikTok. And one of the things that I respected about him was one day he got a comment after he got elected, and he's like, "So when does the insider trading start?" That was the comment,
Yes.
right? That was the
Yes.
comment. When does
Yes.
the insider trading start?
That's what he joined for. He joined for that. That's
And
good.
I loved his
Yes.
response because his response was, I think people should be more clear in this position. I think elected
Mm.
officials owe their, constituents transparency. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to explain my entire income, my entire worth right here, right now. And he did. And he even explained his expenses, his bills. Like right now we have a house that's worth this. Right now we have 2 cars that are already paid off. We bought them at CarMax used. Right? This is how much those cost. I'm also in, the National Reserve, I believe, or the Army Reserve, right?
Mhm.
So he has, that check coming in consistently,
Right.
right? And I believe his wife was like a teacher. I could be wrong, but
Mhm.
he broke all this down, and he's like, I don't want to throw shade at these other congressmen, these other people who are doing those things, but I do think life would be different if everyone had a mortgage. I do think life would be different if everyone had, 2 or 3 kids that they need to take care of,
I'm with
right?
you.
And he also said, and I believe he mentioned that this is the house that I think we're gonna get over here, like in DC, if they need to be there, right? And even described how much that is worth. So I think
Look, so
he
there's an
made it more
exception.
human.
Okay,
Maybe,
there's an exception. All right,
maybe,
there's an exception.
maybe,
I'll buy it.
but I, but
Let me grab another super chat if I could. Peace, thank you for the
sure.
$5. Maha with Kennedy is more than food. It's mental health. It's draining the swamp with FDA, etc. But here's my issue, Peace. Yes, if he's the president, he's probably not going to be the president. You got to really stretch to make him become the president somehow. That's not going to happen, which means he has to be more limited in scope. This is what Adam was talking about, being one part of,
Mhm.
the whole
Yeah,
versus the whole. So I know he'd love to do all those other things, but if you saw the video he did today, or yesterday, whenever it was recently,
yeah.
it was really about food. Like that was the critical aspect he focused on, which I'm not mad at, right? I mean, I'm not mad at that. If he'll fix anything, I'm in, right? I'm not mad. Am I wrong here, Adam?
No, I think it's right, but I do think this conversation is broader than food.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In the video that I published today, I think part of his effort is to make America healthier across the board,
Sure.
right? And something that Callie and Casey means talk about is, there's a focus on spiritual health. there's a focus on, like walking more, exercising more, and like even just walking like what 7,000 steps a day decreases your chances of, Alzheimer's, decreases of most cancers, most disease if you just like do this one thing. But it's like the chances of like Kamala Harris pushing that forward, what are the
Yeah,
odds? The
yeah,
chances of a Trump administration pushing that forward, they begin to increase, right? So now that, RF Kennedy Jr. is kind of preparing this, MAHA movement, maybe it is food, but food is just another sector underneath the umbrella of overall health. So I do think that's what I'm envisioning for the future, and that's what I'm seeing conversations be about. So
got
that's
it.
kind of what I'm believing.
Okay. Cam, thank you for the $5. I appreciate all the support. So good. Lunatic Libertarian, thank you for the $5. Programming is hard to bypass. Asking questions is now taboo. You're right, but I think it's changing. Do as you're told. F that. No lazy, complacent minds anymore. Just get out. Just go get to it before God. Let me give you pushback on this, Libertarian. Lunatic, I'm sorry. You are correct, but I think you can see this is changing. The idea of, think about cancel culture. If you go back 10 years, cancel culture was in its prime. Everybody was being canceled. But now people are like, I'm just not going to be canceled. I'm just not gonna. No. And you're finding more people backing, fighting back towards the questions, fighting
Oh
back
yeah.
towards the taboo. You're finding more and more people going, no, I'm not doing it. And now more and more people, remember, if you go back in 10 years, everyone's a conspiracy theorist. Now it's like, okay, wait 6 months and now it's not a conspiracy anymore. Like, I
That's
think
funny.
this is changing. I think I see light in the tunnel. Adam, am I wrong here?
I think you're absolutely right, and I give so much credit to Elon Musk for this. Right,
Okay.
because I really think he did a great job in preserving this, digital town square that we now see as X, right? Like, was absolutely absurd to me that, like, a president of this great country could get banned on Twitter.
Mm.
How does that make any sense? Agree with him, disagree with him, but the person who's holding the highest office is now unable to talk to the people who follow him, the people he represents in one of the largest social media platforms on the planet.
Right.
How does that make any sense? So
Yeah.
the fact that Elon Musk actually, bought Twitter and it became X is just so profound to me. Like, I don't think he gets enough credit for this. And he just catches a lot of heat for
Okay.
some of these bad tweets that he puts out. But at the end of the day, in the history books, he's gonna go down as one of the people who essentially saved freedom of speech in this country.
There
I'll
we
die
go.
on that hill.
Okay, okay. Super Weapons, thank you for the $10. Super Weapon says the incentives have been maligned, maybe misaligned, maligned, since T. Roosevelt, sic semper tyrannis. Elected officials in this day and age are no longer part of the community. Yes, very true. So they're not impacted by their stupid decisions. I'm going to touch two pieces of this, Super Weapons. And what I talked about earlier today on my show at 1 o'clock, the idea that not only are elected officials not part of their communities, but on top of that, they even bring in consultants from other areas to consult within communities who aren't part of the communities. And on top of that, they create commissions that are usually done at either the federal or state level that are all somehow staffed by either governors or presidents who are also not part of the community. Remember, when you add government, you by default remove community. The only way you change that is by making community the government, right? So you have to create these commissions, create these consultants all from the community. So Weapons, you are exactly correct. And the way we change that is to start bringing community in. Because as you get rid of government, people still need help. People still need guidance. People still want things. Okay, great. But if community is not there to support them, help them, show them, guide them, then they just become lost. And the problem is so many communities, this goes back to what Lunatic was talking about. So many communities have been absorbed by government for so many generations. The communities have lost the institutional knowledge to support themselves. And we saw that during the lockdowns, during the lockdowns. When the lockdowns came, a lot of communities were like, what do we do now? They didn't know how to train their kids. They didn't know what to do. The communities had
Sure,
lost the institutional knowledge. So
sure.
I'm saying yes to what he's saying. I don't know. Am I wrong here?
I don't know if you're wrong, but I also don't know of a better expression on how this could work, in a practical way, right? Because I look at people like Pete Buttigieg, like, yes, now he's Secretary of Transportation, but he was also a mayor of, I believe, a small town,
He
right? So
was
he started, not essentially at the bottom, but he wasn't he wasn't as part of he wasn't a cabinet member, right? He wasn't part of this administration, right?
right.
In this way. So I don't know how you fix that problem in a really meaningful, practical way. Like even Kamala Harris, like she's vice president now, but she was the DA, right? So there seems to be these promotions like throughout careers, and I don't know if that's necessarily a problem. And if it is a problem, I don't know necessarily how to fix it.
I'm actually not as mad at Buttigieg because he was a mayor in his own town. That's not a
Yeah,
bad thing, right? That's not necessarily a bad thing. But
I think
again,
it's
now,
great.
yeah. So what I would say is twofold. One, congressmen should not have to go to Washington, D.C. all the time.
I agree.
So they could actually live in their
I
own,
agree.
right?
I think it doesn't make sense that they live there either.
Yes. Why do they live in D.C.? We've
And
got
now they
things
have
like
to make more
Zoom.
money.
Yeah,
Now they
that's
have to make
why.
more money. It's
Yes.
terrible.
They have to make, because they have to have two homes, right? They have to transport back and forth. Government pays for all that.
And now they're
How
exposed
about,
to the lobbyists.
and they're supposed to lobbyists. Yes, it's a whole lot easier if everyone just go to DC and do that. But they should live in their communities. I think he's totally correct. Live in their communities. Number one, easy to do. And then every single commission should have a local body that is somehow responsible to the local people. You do that, you got some shots. You could change some things. So
I like that.
Lunatic just wants to yell at us. Screw society, systems, NPC, laws, policies.
Oh,
See, we're both libertarians. I'm not going to fight you on any of this. Maybe Adam might. I'm not going to fight you in this, Lunatic. Thanks for $2. Yes. There we go. Yes. I think we're done with
that's
that,
funny.
Lunatic. Thank you. So let me move to the next piece if I could. Do you think MAHA is working? Do you think it's working? Right. And I'm going to tell you, I'm a little biased, but let me get yours first and I'll tell you how I feel. Go ahead.
I do think it's working, but I
Okay.
also think it's possible that it could be, losing a little bit of steam too. So I do think
Okay.
both of these things could be true at once, like in the same way that Kamala Harris got injected, then there was a honeymoon phase. She could do no wrong.
Yep.
Now she does wrong every 12 hours. That's what it seems like is happening right now. And in the same way, like MAHA could be very similar. Like are there going to be some leaks in the ceiling? Is going to be an entirely perfect plan? Is it going to be open to critiques? Absolutely. But what I love about this is that I think they are open to the criticisms. They aren't ignoring the
Mm.
criticisms. Like, did you see that the new website that RFK Jr. launched, Policy
Yep.
for the People?
I'm gonna be talking about that coming up here this week. Yep.
Like, how great is that? How great is it
Yep.
that now there's a public forum that's designated to have these types of conversations, right? Like, have you seen the Kamala Harris one?
There isn't one.
Exactly.
Yeah, there isn't one.
This is the
Yes.
problem, right? Like,
Yes.
there's some transparency here, and it's very collaborative, and I love that. So
Yeah.
again, it's this sense of community that gives people this ability to participate in what could eventually happen on the national scale. And that's exciting to me, really.
If I got what you're saying, I feel like you
Mhm.
kind of said it started working, but it might not be working. So you're not sure is what you're not sure if it's working.
I do think it's a yes and no, because I do think Maha is strong enough for it to actually, pick up the independent votes, right? I do think it's strong enough to make Kennedy supporters vote for President Trump. I actually just did a poll right now I think I shared it like a couple of days ago, like who they're going to be voting for in this upcoming election. And this time I didn't include Kennedy on there. I just put President Trump, Vice President Kamala Harris, right? Republican, Democrat, that's it. And people were not choosing Kamala Harris. I'm not sure how
Mm.
many votes it ended up having. Let me bring it up really, really quick. Check this out. Okay, yeah, it has almost 2,000 votes. Almost 2,000 votes, and
You want to present it?
90.
You click present if you want to present it.
Yes, I'll go ahead and do that. Just need to copy paste it here. Sharing screen. Okay, perfect. You see that?
There we go. 95.5.
Yeah, so this is crazy. Right. And again,
Wow.
these videos reach a lot of Kennedy supporters. All right. So this is a heavily skewed environment. But even in this heavily skewed environment, the idea that Kennedy supporters are going to, show up for Kamala Harris, I don't think so, friend. I don't see that
Wow.
happening. I
Okay.
see it being very clear here, and almost 2,000
Wow.
for a poll that's 2 days old.
Wow.
Like, and even this graph that was shared by American Values recently, saying that the Kennedy cohort is actually going to be showing up like in battleground states for President Trump, and they are actually moving the needle forward. I can't help but think that this is actually what's happening, right? Like,
Wow. Okay.
yeah,
So it's working. Okay.
I do think it's working.
All right. Peace, Lodge. Thank you for the $5, my friend. Good super chat. A big part is free speech. The Dems disappoint. Will Trump deliver on free speech? What do you think? Are we in trouble? It's a good question. I mean, a lot of people will talk trash, but then get into power and maybe not be so good. What do you think, Adam? You think he's going to? You think Trump's going to be good on free speech?
I absolutely do. I think that's such a no-brainer question. Like, President Trump has been a victim of censorship,
Okay.
right? And I believe in their private conversations that Kennedy has, like shared to light, like he said that this was actually one of the cores that made me like actually get behind and support President Trump. And it was censorship. Yes, it's making America healthy again, but one of the other
Mm,
pillars was censorship. And you see both of these people, both these monumental figures have been victims of censorship, and they both know it's a problem. So I don't. I think President Trump is going to do everything he can in his ability underneath his umbrella of influence, and I think he's going to try to make that, especially if you have someone like Elon Musk on board, right? One of this person who's leading what, like 4 giant tech companies, like
right.
of course, right? And even
Got it.
and I think this is starting to bleed into other media outlets as well. Like I'm seeing things on like, the New York Times on their Instagram page, and I always go through their comments. I'm like, are people buying this stuff? Right.
Right. Right. Right. Right. Right. Right. Right.
And for the most part, they are.
Got
But
it. Okay.
more and more, I'm seeing some truth there. I'm seeing people begin to question, and I think part of that is happening because they are seeing the truth on other platforms like X.
Okay. Rick, thank you for being a member, my friend. He says, I no longer define myself as a libertarian voter. And now I say that I'm a civil liberties voter. Well, Bobby's the loudest voice in this. He's not perfect, but he'll do.
There
I
you
think there
go.
are people who would say that. Yeah.
And I think people are fine with that too, right? Like you can say the same exact thing about President Trump. He's not perfect, but he'll do, right? In
Okay.
fact, something that I expressed on my Twitter page after the JD Vance and Tim Walz debate was I thought this was so diplomatic. I thought people spoke with such clarity and commonality, and I thought it was just a beautiful exchange of ideas. In fact, so many times were they actually saying, "You know what? I actually agree with you on that." Right?
Mm,
They went back and forth with that a lot, or even JD Vance extending empathy, right, to Tim Waz whenever he was talking about his experience with his kid and that terrible event, right? They were actually in alignment. He's like, I'm sorry you went through that. Like, you know what, but we actually agree here. Right. And I just think
mm.
that was something that we didn't see in the presidential debate between President Trump and Kamala Harris. So something that I wrote afterwards on my Twitter page was something that's clear to me now is that both of the main party candidates that we see probably aren't the best expression of modern American policy and values right now, right? They probably aren't, right? I think the Democratic Party is probably maybe embarrassed more so than they're actually willing to express that Kamala Harris is their candidate, and I think they're starting to prepare for 2028. But she's not the best, and I think that's okay to say. She's not the best, but she'll do for now. In the same way that President Trump, maybe he's not the most effective person. Maybe JD Vance is a little bit clearer. Maybe he's a little bit clearer in his positions and his ability to articulate, and maybe he's diplomatic enough to actually work across the aisle, so he'll actually be much more effective. I think those are all strong arguments, and you can make those arguments. But President Trump is in the position for right now in order to actually get elected, right?
Okay.
So this idea between, perfect, no, good enough, yes. right? So that's what I'm saying. And you could say the same exact thing for Kennedy. You know, like maybe Kennedy's not the best expression if I'm a libertarian, but he'll do for now. And I think you have to be a little bit, you know, future minded, forward thinking in that. So
Okay.
that's what I'm
Let me
saying.
grab one of your comments from your page. This is from Kate7478. When I supported Obama, he revolutionized campaigning by using the internet to create an organized community volunteer base twice, and each time he abandoned it. Sanders did the same thing. Do you think Kennedy will continue to use his supporter campaign volunteer base when Trump gets into office to advocate locally to their congressmen, or will he abandon it? Do you think it has a function post-campaign? This is a great question, and it is one of my worries. She is hit on the nose. It's one of my worries. One of my worries is there are so many Kennedy supporters who will just walk away. And if Kennedy doesn't reach out to them and keep them, you know, engaged, that he'll lose them. I am worried about that. What do you think?
I don't agree.
Please.
I don't agree because for one, we've already seen a transformation take place. You know, so now there's a history that we could look back on. And
Mhm.
I think we see the Kennedy campaign, if we see, you know, this like timeline, we will constantly see it transform and morph into something else. Something that it wasn't, but something that it is becoming. Right. So we saw it, you know, he started off as a Democratic candidate, then he morphed into the independent candidate. Then he, you know, built up all these sayings, all this information, all these policies, and then he morphed again. Now he's supporting Trump. And even his website used to be Kennedy24.com, and now it's mahanow.org. So we see this other morph. Even in his email updates, you know, at first you were like, guys, we need to have more resources in order to continue fighting this good fight. So like let's donate to 2020 to Kennedy 2024, and let's actually inspire people to join in this fight. But then we see a morph into, if you want to get us into the White House to have more support for President Trump and make America healthier again, now you could support us in this way and fight in this particular way. And we see this morph again. And then we have another instance with policies for the people, right? Where what was once existing in the comment section of his videos has now
Mhm.
morphed into another
Now it's yeah.
expression of that, and now it's a website where people could actually continue the dialogue. So then we see another morph there, and I just think we're going to see that continue to happen if he gets elected. Right, President Trump gets elected, he's in office. I think we're going to continue to see this community continue to thrive. Right, like I
I
am
hope
so
you are
surprised.
correct.
Like, Larry, let me tell you how surprised I am, because I thought as soon as Kennedy actually stopped his campaign, I thought, okay, well, like the natural thing that I could do now as someone who, you know, covers his information, covers his policies, covers his platform. Now I could start covering, you know, maybe some Kamala Harris stuff, maybe some President Trump stuff. Like that's the natural progression, right? Let's expand this a bit. I think that makes sense. But what fascinates me is that there's still an audience of people who are for Kennedy, and they are still
Yeah.
interested in this Kennedy conversation. They're still interested in making America healthy again. And I don't think these people are going anywhere, but maybe there might be new expressions for them to exist in different areas. So they're not going anywhere, but these values are going to continue being elevated. These conversations are going to be continuing to advance in the future. And I don't know if there's always going to be a news like a newsletter going out every couple of days, like once they're actually in office, which I believe they will be. I don't know if that's going to continue to happen, but I
Mm.
do know that the values are going to continue. The conversation is going to continue.
Well, there
And
we go.
that's my hope.
All right. One more from your page. This is from Steve LaBelle. He says, should Trump talk about the unity ticket more? And should Kamala try to take their policies? LOL. And I'll go to one more piece that's close. Jess says, it's already lost some hype, in my opinion. MAHA was a honeymoon phase for Trump supporters. Through to get more voters, MAHA is more separate. Now, why do I bring that up? Is because I think there are people, and again, it's a fear I have too. I am guilty of the same fear. The worry that MAHA and Trump are now separate, right? They were kind of, to your point, they got on the stage together, hugged and kissed. Life was good. Things are blowing up. Everything's great. We got more votes. But then, no, MAHA, you go over here, and Trump, you go over there, and now we're separate. Is Trump really talking about unity or not? Should he be? Is it separate? the same issue that I worry too. I'm Steve and Jess are both picking my brain too. What do you think?
I do think it's a really fair critique, right? I think it's fair that people are upset. I even saw like Anna Matson on Twitter. She
Yep.
was really big on RFK Jr. She was like, I feel like we're being grifted over here.
That's
I
my
feel like
worry.
we're not represented on his website. Like, what's going on? I do think it's a good question, and I think it's a genuine concern. And I don't think we're the first people who are voting for candidates who have a deep and profound worry that they might not do what they say they're gonna do in the
Yep.
campaign.
Not the
So
first
like
time.
let's also generalize it a bit more, right? Like let's add a little bit of nuance here and say this isn't the first time this happens, right? Like this is a somewhat normal experience, but me thinking about the positive, the positive expression here, I'd rather believe that something wonderful is going to happen. All right. I'd rather believe that these things that are being spoken into, these conversations that are being breathed life into, I do think they're going to come into fruition. And if you think that Kennedy spent the last 4 months, 4 months at November, if you think that he spent all this time campaigning for President Trump, and if you think Trump has even talked about making America healthy again, and you think that's not going to happen, and you think President Trump isn't wanting to give the American people their health back as his legacy, if you don't think that's going to happen, like you have
I
every
am a
right to.
libertarian, Adam. Like
I
that,
know.
right? Like I
I know.
am. So
I
I'm
know.
immediately
And you
I'm immediately
can.
like everybody like they're all lying. That's literally what I think. That's my
You
that's my
can.
baseline.
I know. I think my baseline is there are people who want to there are people who are telling the truth. There are people who actually care about the American public. There are people who are so deeply burdened by what's happening in the American people's lives, what's happening to the food industry, and they see the corruption and they will not stand. And I think about this saying that RF Kennedy Jr. gave at a rally once or twice, but he was like, I can make this promise. If you give me a piece of land and a sword, I'm going to give you your country back. And I'm like, oh my gosh, could this not be his version of a piece of land? Right?
Okay.
Could what's happening at the USDA be his version of this is a small piece, but he's going to start here, right? And could American health actually ripple into every other category of our quality of life, right? Like, I don't
Alice is on
know.
your side. Alice says, "Me too, Adam. I'm choosing to believe. I have hope."
Maybe this is a strategy from Kamala Harris's campaign. Where
Uh-oh. Maybe we're
hope
taking
and joy,
Kamala stuff.
hope
We're
and
doing it.
joy.
Yes. That's it. Hope and
We're
joy.
choosing hope and joy over here.
Absolutely.
Like
Well,
hope.
Kinsuki's on my side though. She's like, same, Larry, same, skeptical of everyone. She's on my side. So we're splitting the audience in this one, Adam. We're splitting the audience.
Which is totally fine because we all have our own vote. Isn't that
There
great?
we go.
Like
Absolutely.
I'm voting
Yes.
based on my values, you're voting based on your values, and at the end of the day, in November, we're gonna see which candidate actually comes out on top and which expression of the future is gonna come to reality.
Yes. So let me grab a couple more of these if I could. Lunatic, thank you for the $2. Elon receives subsidies. I'm still banned on X. That sucks, Lunatic. You should be back on X. Look, people get mad at Elon for grifting. I get it. Came to New York, grifted a lot. I agree. But I want to be forward, though. It wasn't because it's Elon. Everyone comes to New York and grifts. Elon was just one of many. Like, New York State is the state of drifting. I did a whole show on it just today at 1 o'clock. Elon was one of many. So, yes, he did what all the rest of them did. Again, just being forward. But it does suck you're banned on X. I have not been banned on X yet. I was shadow banned on Twitter. But it opened up once Elon took over, my shadow ban was lifted.
Hey, there we go. That's
So that
good.
was good. Yes,
That's good. He
absolutely.
gave you your voice back.
I got my voice back. Peace,
Isn't
Lodge.
that
Thank you for the
beautiful?
$5, my friend. When Trump wins, Kennedy must regularly post on progress and how we can all participate.
I see
This
that.
would make everybody happy. In peace, I hope you are right, my friend. This would make everybody happy. It would engage people. So many people, Adam, you know this. They want to be involved in this. Like they want to do
course.
something. So
Yeah.
here, go do the thing. And they're like, yes, I'll go do the thing. Tell me, I want to go do the thing. Yes. I think he's right in the money.
No, absolutely. And I
Yes.
do see that happening, right? Like Kennedy, he posts very frequently, a couple times a day, And I don't really see that changing. But we all know that he can't continue this. He probably can't continue this campaign energy after November because it probably takes so much energy out of him. So I do get it, but I don't know. Kennedy loves being on podcasts too. You know,
Yeah, maybe.
I do not doubt that we're gonna continue to see him, you know, until we don't.
Absolutely. Well, I got some negative ones. Ride Sicker, thank you for the $5. Who wants to place a bet? If Trump wins, RFK Jr. will be out within 6 months. You are being fooled. You'll learn. This is my worry. See, these are my people, Adam. They're like me. They are like, oh, I don't trust this guy. These are my people. They're like, I don't trust this guy. He thinks the same way. I'm worried too. I think it's 9 months, but I would take 6. I think 9 because once he wins, he doesn't come in until January. So I would say 6 months from inauguration. Yes, I'm with you, Riot. 9 months from the actual election. I think all of a sudden they're gonna be like, Kennedy, who? That is my worry. That is always my worry. See, I guess you just got more hope. Riot, they got more hope than us. They got more hope than us, right?
I do.
Kate,
you know what I'm thinking about?
Go tell me.
I'm thinking about how whenever cameras were invented, so many news outlets were saying, like, this is way back in the day, but this was still in print. They were saying painters are in trouble. Painters will, they're being blasted into oblivion. They will be made irrelevant because of this new technology known as cameras.
Yep.
Right? Like, how long will painters last? Right? Who knows? But we do know that cameras are reinventing this entire category. And we now know, 100 years later, cameras did, they dominated, right? But you know what I love? I love that painting is now seen as something that requires way more talent.
Right. Yes.
It may be smaller, but the craft is way more appreciated. What goes on people's walls, like, often are they, photos or are they painting? Usually it's an expression of both, right? And the thing is, what we see is that they don't disappear, right? Maybe their influence becomes smaller. Maybe that's natural. Maybe that's just what happens, right? Like, when was the last time you saw a Radio Shack? Right. Some things are seasonal. How often do you see Spirit Halloween? Halloween, we're seeing it right now, and we're gonna see it again. And there's a beauty to this seasonality. And I even think about the scriptures where, like in Ecclesiastes, you see that there's a season for everything.
Yep.
Right. And I just love that. So this is gonna be my position of hope. This is gonna be my position that I believe that Kennedy will continue to have massive influence. I believe that he will continue to try to make the American lives healthier, better, and that's just what I believe.
All right. So Ride Sticker goes on to say, thank you for $2. They got more hope because they're young. Maybe it's true. Maybe not. Lunatic Libertarian says, place your bets with Super Chats. Larry's holding the money. No, I'm not. Don't get me in trouble, Lunatic. I am not going to be in illegal gambling. No. Listen, hold on. Stan, he's joking. Talking to my NSA agent. He's joking. He's joking. That's my agent who follows me. Yeah, he's joking. Don't arrest me yet. Come on, don't do it. He's just kidding. So no, not at all. So yes. Kate asked you a specific question though. He says, same here. He's talking to me. She's talking to me. Kate has only mentioned MAHA how many times at rallies? 2 times? What has Trump delivered that's impressed you? So let me ask you that. Adam, what has Trump delivered that has impressed you that you would think that you'll have more hope? Or is it just, I have hope?
Well, for one, first and foremost, I do have hope, right? And if you look at, I do have some like kind of this anti-democratic like perspectives here, like where part of me just despises what the Democratic Party represents right now.
Yeah,
so that
DNC,
pushes me to, want to vote for President Trump. But on a personal note, like, I don't know if President Trump, installing these justices was necessarily a bad thing, right? And I don't think, unturning Roe v. Wade was necessarily bad, right? I do think on a personal note, I feel
there's a lot of women who would disagree with you, my friend,
and that's totally fine, right? That's
just
totally
saying,
fine.
a lot.
I love it. You could disagree with me. There's plenty of women who agree with me as well, right? There's women who
Agreed.
we are in alignment of shared values, and I think that's fine, right? And this is the beauty of voting, right? If you disagree, vote based on your beliefs, vote based on your values, vote based on how you see the world. You're not supposed to vote based on my values. You're supposed to
No,
vote on
vote based
your
on don't
values.
listen to them.
Yeah.
Vote based on my values. All of you follow my values. Do as I say. Yes,
Yes.
no, I'm
You
kidding.
see?
I'm kidding. Yes. Yes.
Right. And I think what's beautiful about this collection of people here is, like I would consider these like the free thinkers, the
Mhm.
people who aren't seeking the mainstream media narrative news, but they
100%.
go onto these, these third party expression people. And I think that's
Yep.
great. Why did they come here? Because they feel more represented here. And I think that's great. So
All right. So Daniel says he's on Riot side. Thank you for the $2, my friend. I appreciate that. Daniel has an interesting one. He says, I'm also 6 months and RFK is, I don't know, out fearful guy. Not sure what that means. Trump has to promote the MAHA, talk from the stump to make me believe he can gain a lot of votes from moms if Trump does this. I think Daniel's right. And this is my point that we've been talking about, right? A couple people brought this up. I believe it too. I think Trump's screwing up. I think he should be pushing this unity message. There's no tomorrow. I think he should be throwing this stuff out like there's no every day talking Maha. I think he should do it. The people who already love Trump are going to vote for him already. He's got them.
yeah,
There's nobody who loves Trump who's like, you know what? I'm not going to vote for him now. That's not going to happen. He's got them. He should be
sure.
pushing for the other people who are in the Maha world who are skeptical. And you can see just from the chat, there's a lot of Maha people who are skeptical on Trump. There's a lot. And he needs to do this because if I'm Trump's team, I'm worried that RFK Jr. still gets 2 million votes.
Oh,
That's the worry. If I'm Trump's team, I'm like, he might still get 2 million votes. Now, if he gets 2 million votes, how many of those were ours that we could have picked up versus
sure.
Harris? Right? At least 60%.
Yeah.
Trump could have picked up if he had done the right thing. At least, if not more, but 60% he probably could have picked up. Right? If he just would have started talking about Maha.
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's a mistake. I completely agree.
For sure.
Yes.
Yeah, we're in agreement
Kim
there.
goes on to say, $2. Thank you for that. RFK, heavy influencer than you think, in my opinion. Maybe heavier. I would buy it. It's possible. All right, let me go to this one. This is a good transition one. Peace, thank you for the $5. He says, did you hear that Harris and Trump are going on Joe Rogan? Oh my God, I hope this is real. I can't believe Harris will do Joe Rogan. All right, give me your 2 cents on Rogan now. Come on. Both of them.
I love Rogan. I think he represents kind of the person who's able to extract all the BS from people and is actually able to kind of get the substance and deliver it into a way that kind of makes sense for all his audience. But what's even more powerful is the edits that come out of it, right? Like
Okay,
there's
tell
going
me
to
about
be,
that.
okay, so I do think in the same way that President Obama used Facebook to get elected, right? They called him the Facebook president in
Right.
2008. In the same way they used that, in the same way that JFK used, like the TV to have his national debate. I
Yep.
believe there are people who use new expressions of media in order to reach new audiences. And I think in 2024, part of that new expression is TikToks. It is the edits. It is, going on these like Instagram reels, being live, having those things out. And Joe Rogan, he understands this more than anyone else, right?
Got it. Okay.
He might not have sought this. He might not have thought this was part of his influence, but the people who take his videos, put it in some program, get 1,000 clips out of it and post them everywhere.
Right. Got
They
it. That's
do
what you
that.
mean.
They do that more than any other podcast on the planet. Okay. He has an astounding amount of influence. And do you think if President Trump, if the most famous person on the planet goes on the most famous podcast on the planet, you don't think that's going to do absolutely numbers? In the
No,
US alone, it's going to blow up. It's going to break the internet. And this could be a really good thing for President Trump. I don't see it being a bad thing. I could see this blowing up in Kamala Harris's face.
I do see, but I'm going to give you my 2 cents on this. Again, if I'm on Trump's team, and obviously I'm not, but if I'm part of his team, this is what I'm going to tell him to do. Don't talk about how bad Harris is. Let Joe Rogan do that. You should be a bro. You should be talking about the deals you did in New York, the Apprentice movie that came out, how it was on the, you should be just connecting with the young men who watch Joe Rogan's show. That would be my advice to Trump if he goes on. Just connect to the young men. What Trump does well, his strength is he projects strength very well.
Yeah.
What he does not do well is project empathy. That's his weakness. He does not project empathy well. But he could go on a bro. Yes, because he can go. Yes, I'll tell you 2 reasons why. Number one, if he goes on a bro show, which is what Joe Rogan is, right? Go on that show, connect to those guys, talk about stuff, talk about his days when he's hanging with the hip hop moguls, not Diddy, but anybody except Diddy. Talk about him when he's talk about the apprentice, talk about stuff like that, and connect. He does that. That will get all of them who are any on the fence or who weren't going to vote. And that's the biggest issue, because what people don't know is women vote at a much higher rate than men. Older women vote at a much higher rate than younger men. And I mean by a lot. Like something like 85% of older women vote, some crazy number like that. It's like 60% or less, 50% of men, younger men vote. He gets that out. He gets those men to actually vote. And here's how I know this. In 2018, I went on 2 separate podcasts that was at the time pretty big. Okay. One was Joe Rogan and one was Dave Rubin. Now, at that point, Dave Rubin's podcast was far smaller than Joe Rogan's. Oh, wow. When I got off of Joe Rogan's, massive increase in my social media. Of course, Joe Rogan, of course, but not in money. I didn't raise much money off Joe Rogan at all. Sure. Why? It's not a political group, right? It's young men who usually don't vote, don't care. Dave Rubin, much smaller audience. I made far more money because his audience was a politically engaged audience. Sure. They saw me, liked me, and they wrote me checks and I got money, came in, but not from Joe Rogan. So what does that tell me? They're not politically engaged. They're not voting. They don't care. They're just enjoying their life, which and the stats show that. If he actually connects with them on an emotional empathy, level, right? Just talking to him, he'll get more votes out of it. That's my view. People think I'm wrong. You tell me, am I wrong?
I don't know if you're wrong, but I don't know if I entirely agree with you. I think some people really like the strength that President Trump represents, right? I think people really vibe with that. In the same way that what was really popping this past weekend was Tim Walz went hunting, right? He's trying to get the masculine vote. But that was very underwhelming compared to this one picture of JD Vance leaned back with a machine gun, just having a good time, right? Like at the end of the day, I think the Democratic Party has done such a terrible job at undermining the value of traditional men, traditional masculine men, people who are actually, I don't want to say normal, but for lack of a better word, right? And I think that has left almost a permanent stain in someone's mouth. And
okay.
So I don't think there's enough of a runway for that to change from now until November. Right. And you see it, you see them trying to change. You even see President Obama trying to get black men excited about voting for Kamala Harris. And it's not working.
No,
it's not working. And then you see Kamala Harris try to push out this new policy that's specifically designed for giving money to black men. And it's not working. No. There is a giant backlash. And I just made a post recently and I'm like, I don't know if this is right, but this seems desperate. And I don't know if guys or people like to vote for desperate people. Do desperate people win elections?
Generally not. But let me then move to the next step then. What about Harris going on Joe Rogan? Now we talk about Trump, about Harris. To me,
disastrous.
I don't know. I got to tell you, I think it's a good gamble. People, we were talking about this on the show the other day, like she'll never go on. I said, no, she might. I was like, no, she might. And I think to your point, she's desperate. It's a good gamble. Because look, you gamble when you're losing. You don't gamble when you're winning. When you're winning, don't gamble.
That's such a good point. That's a great point. I got to give it to you. That's a great point.
You gamble when you're losing. Yes, what's you going to lose? You're going to lose the election. Go.
You might as well, right?
If you flop, you still lost the election. If you hit it out of the park, you win the election.
That's great.
Yeah, I think it. Look, I know people think I'm crazy when I say this stuff, but I think it's a good idea. You're struggling, you know you're in trouble. Everybody will watch that show, and because we're all gonna wait for the train wreck. We all gonna be like,
Oh
train
yeah,
wreck, here it comes.
absolutely.
We're all gonna watch that
It'll
show.
probably be better than President Trump's because
Well,
he's
here's
on
the
so
advantage
many.
that she has. She does have one advantage. It's the only one she has, and that is Harris's team is a very good team.
Oh yeah.
That's an advantage she has. They will prep her literally. I guarantee you this. If she's going on Rogan 2 or 3 days before, she'll be doing no events. They will just be prepping her for Rogan because that's what I've done. I would cancel her entire schedule for 2-3 days. You are sitting in a room with me, and we are going to make sure you have memorized every soundbite that I could possibly memorize. Yes. She's going to memorize sound bites. We're going to look at, we're going to be like a football days, looking at the old tapes of Rogan, figuring out what stories he says, all of it. There's no doubt. That's one advantage she has. So she might, if you remember what she did in debate, that debate she did was completely scripted, and she was good. She's good scripted. She's very good scripted. And so I wouldn't count her out. People are saying she's got a good team behind her. I think they will script it. The question is, how aggressive is Rogan?
I would say very.
If he's very aggressive, she could be in trouble.
And I also think, like, I just saw this post on X today too, and it was someone quoting a picture that said, "Oh, Harris's team is in talks with Joe Rogan's team about making this happen," and great. But the person in front of it, or the person who quote tweeted it, they were like, in the quotes, they wrote, "Jamie, pull up that video of Kamala saying that she's gonna give free sex changes to inmates."
Yes.
That's what I see is gonna happen. Or Jamie, pull up that video of Kamala Harris saying nonsense for a minute straight because her teleprompter went out. Jamie, pull up that video of her doing.
But here's my point, though. You're right, but here's my point. Now, I know already the team went to Joe Rogan, and in talks means, can we get you to not ask certain questions? That's what in talks means.
Oh, really?
Just so you're clear. You're the expert. Why do you be in talks?
Okay.
When I went on Rogan, this is it's a true story. My team came to me and said, "Hey, this is 2018. Hey, Larry, you're going on Joe Rogan." I went, "The Man Show guy?" That's literally what I said.
Okay.
Because I didn't know how popular I was that ignorant. I didn't know how popular his podcast was. I said, "The Man Show guy?" Like, no, he's got a podcast. Oh, he does? Yeah, you're going on. Oh, I am? Okay. That's cool. Literally like 3 to 4 days or whatever it was, I flew to, he was in California then. This is back in 2018. So I flew to California. This is a true story. I show up. I'm early. I sit in the green room. Joe Rogan comes in late. He comes in. This is what he says. "Sharpe here." I went, "Yeah, right here." He goes, "Great, come on in." He puts his headphones on. I put my headphones on. 3, 2, 1. Larry Sharpe. That's how the entire thing. No prep.
That's
nothing.
Crazy. That's awesome.
That's how it actually went. No prep.
That's great.
So there was no negotiation. He said, "I'm talking to Larry Sharpe." No negotiation. So what they're talking about is, how can we limit the questions? Because that's how they want to. Now, I think Rogan's team will say, "No, I'm just talking. I think you're right." Now, when that happens, what you just said, her whole team is like, "Okay, what are the horrible clips he could pull up?" And that's my point. They'll be bringing up all those clips and then rehearsing an answer for her for every one of those clips, because that's what I would do. Right? If I'm on her team and she's got me as a consultant, I'm doing, is that what you just said? Okay, what dumb clip will he pull up? This one? Okay, how do we answer that? And then get her to memorize it. And if he pushes back, how to memorize it? I would literally have her memorize like 10, 20 things. So at least you got some good ones, even if you have some bad ones. Because then she will then, as you said, you'll pull clips on how she screws up. Her team then pulls clips on how she did well. I'm just saying, it's not going to be a bloodbath. If she goes, no bloodbath. Her team's too good.
What do you think happens if Joe Rogan, he sits down with President Trump and he's like, "Hey, yeah, so we reached out to the Kamala Harris team and we're trying to make this happen, but she tried to put a lot of red tape on this conversation and we didn't allow it." What if he says that?
And that's my issue. This is why I think if Trump goes, Harris has to go for exactly that reason.
What if
you're exactly
Rogan doesn't allow it? What if Rogan says no?
No. Rogan is not going to say no to either of them. What he's going to say is yes, no restrictions. That's what he's going to say. Rogan's not going to go, no, you can't come on. He might say, no restrictions. He might say that. Yeah, come on, but no restrictions. That might happen, but he's not going to go no, because then that would he'd be obviously biased if he said no. So he's not going to just say no. He might go, look, I'm not going to do any restrictions, right? He might do that. Possible. Okay. But that's about all. There's no way he'll do it. And then the problem is, will Harris's team go, I don't have enough time to prep her? Because you got to prep her before, because what you said is exactly right, Adam. He's going to do exactly that. And if you can't prep her for that, don't put her on. I'd rather have Trump destroy her on Rogan than have her go and destroy herself.
Sure.
If I got a choice, right? It's the lesser of two evils in that regard.
I also think there's another element here.
Okay.
And I do think the Kamala Harris audience I think they're more thirsty for this interview than Trump's audience. Just because
I don't know. Trump people want to see this.
They do, but they don't need it.
Okay.
I think Harris needs it.
Yes.
Right. I think Harris needs it. I think she knows that she needs it. I think her team knows that she needs it. Trump, he's doing good. He doesn't need it. Would it be great? Yes.
If Harris, but here's the thing, this is a gamble. If Harris actually pulls this off, it is a gamble. Don't get me wrong. I'm not prepared to bet that she would pull this off. To be clear, I'm not prepared to bet it. But I'm just saying, if she does, oh my God. I mean, it could save her. It could literally save her. That's how big of a gamble this could be.
Yeah.
It could literally save her. So that's why I'm saying it's not crazy to do. It's the gamble that could just put her over the top. If she knocks us out of the park and Rogan's like, imagine Rogan goes, I'm thinking about voting for you. Imagine if he says that.
He wouldn't.
I'm not saying he will, but do you understand the gamble that if that happens,
that's crazy.
If Rogan literally says, think about voting for you. She's done. She's won. Go ahead. It's done. Trump could quit at that point. That'd be the end. Anyway, I'm just moving on my list. P goes back to $5 more. Thank you, my friend. He says, whatever agreement Harris team has with Joe, say yes and break the agreement. Can he get into real trouble?
I mean, let's be real.
The problem is, will he get in real trouble? No. However, now you limit the amount of politicians who will come on your show. He may not care about that, but if he does, that would matter, right? If he does. I don't know if he does. To be forward with you, Peace Logic. Does he give a shit? Maybe. I don't know. Does he not? I don't know. But if he does care, he does not want to break the agreement. If he doesn't care, break the agreement. I agree. I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
I don't know. I thought Rogan was a little bit more edgy than that, but you have firsthand experience. I think we're how many politicians actually go on Rogan anyways?
I am the only actively running libertarian that ever went on a show.
That's great.
Yes. Everyone else has either not run or has run a long time before, but no actively running has none. That I know of, I'm the only active running politician not until recently. Someone else just broke it. But I was the only one who wasn't the presidential candidate. I was a gubernatorial candidate. So yeah.
Right on.
But yeah. So I'm one of the few, and whatever the number is, it's only a few of us.
That's a small circle. Yes. That's a small circle. That's really cool. Circle. So that's a really small group chat, you know?
Yeah, that's a tiny group chat. That's true.
That's really cool.
Yes. All right, let me see here. Johns, thank you for being a member, says, really enjoying the conversation. Oh, look at that. We're enjoying our conversation. I love that. All right, let me grab some more of these if I can. I have a bunch of these. There's so many of these, I can't get them all, but I will try to, as always, head to our members first. Kim says, something about Elon Musk makes me nervous. Yeah, I think sometimes, but Lila comes up with this. Good. Elon, if you notice, is too rich to tell a lie. And I think there's some truth to that. I mean, it's not 100%, but I guess the point is Elon has what they call the FU money, where he doesn't really care. Do you remember when he got interviewed by Don Lemon?
100%.
And then Don Lemon's like, didn't you think you'd have to answer questions? He's like, no. Why? Well, didn't someone going to hold you? He's like, no, I'm only here because I paid you. What's wrong with you? No.
Yeah.
He just said, no.
I'm here as a favor to you. I'm here as a courtesy to you. I don't need to be here at all.
Yeah. I don't care about you. Who the hell are you? So I think we may be right. And is she right on this one, Adam, or not?
I don't know if he's too rich to tell a lie, but I think he is more committed to other things than lying. Like, I think he's more
Mm,
committed to free speech, to lying. I think he's more committed to, revolutionizing the car industry than worrying about, like GM's sales numbers, right? Like, he's more committed to these other sectors than lying. Like, in the same way that I think he's more committed to Trump than Kamala Harris. Of course, he's
yeah,
putting a lot on the line, and I think that's
yeah,
okay to say, right? Like, he has a voice just like anybody else, right? Like me and you, we both have our biases. That's okay, right? Should
yeah.
we look to Elon Musk to do our thinking for us? Absolutely,
Mm,
absolutely
right,
not.
right, right, right.
If you expect other people to do your thinking for you, you got to understand they're not in the wrong. You are in the wrong. You have a false sense of expectation on what these people who you look into have for you. Like, these people might not be here to, deliver the facts straight up, right? For the
Right.
most part, they're here for a connection, right? And I think about that a lot. Like, I wanted to start a newsletter where all we did was present the facts in an unbiased way. I thought that was a killer idea. And whenever I was, discussing with another creator who I was trying to collaborate on this with, and they were like, I see some danger here. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, there's not dangerous at all. We're just presenting the truth. We're just presenting fact by fact. This is great. But he's like, you know what he said? He said, it's not going to be biased based on the facts. It's going to be biased based on what you choose to talk about.
Yep.
Because what you choose to talk about and what you choose not to talk about, that says everything people need. Because at the end of the day, if people would rather watch, if the choices are between, David Pakman or Benny Johnson, who you choose to cover the same exact video, like, that tells you everything. Do you want it
Yes.
to come from Benny Johnson, who's going to tell you everything you already believe about the Conservative Party and MAGA? Or are you going to listen to David Pakman, who's going to tell you everything you want to hear about, pro-choice and
Mhm.
the government is efficient
Right.
and all these things, right?
Yeah.
Like, what you choose matters. And to have a commitment that says, like, we're unbiased, we're doing this and that, like, you'll never be able to live up to that promise. Even this woman who,
Well,
her
hold
name's,
on. I want to
sorry.
bring up a thing that I think is working here, right? And that is, generally speaking, things like breaking points, things like how
Okay.
rising
Yeah.
used to be, kind of is a little
Mhm.
bit, but isn't as it used to be, but similar. The idea that instead of saying we're not biased, we instead say here are multiple voices,
It's great.
right? I think that's a much better way
It's
of
way
getting.
cleaner.
Yeah, it's clean,
Mhm.
exactly, right? Like I've had communists on my show, right? I have anybody on my show, right?
Sure.
They know where I'm coming from, right? It's
Yeah.
clear. But then here comes the other guy who's like, no, 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 that's not where I'm from at all. And
Mhm.
sometimes my audience gets annoyed. Like, why are we listening to this guy? I don't want to listen to
Yeah.
this guy. Because millions of Americans think like this guy thinks.
Of course.
That's the reason why.
Yeah.
Yes, because millions of Americans think just like this guy. So we should
Mhm.
hear it. And then you know
Of
what? It
course.
also, I don't mind because now my views get measured against his views. And hopefully I win every time. I do win
Yeah.
every time. But in
And if you
theory, I
don't
win every time. Yes.
and if you don't, then you're better. Your argument is now more refined because if
It's
it doesn't
true.
stack up and then you go back to the textbook. Go back
Yep.
to where your argument falls apart. Go, like, reanalyze it, see where the leaks are. Like, I love having these
Absolutely.
conversations because it's like, do I know I'm going to be like the best? Maybe not, but do I know I'm gonna be better through it?
Sure.
Probably,
Yes.
right? Like, it's just about this constant tugging where you actually become more refined. And I think about the story about Steve Jobs. He was this was whenever he was a kid, right? He was a kid, and one of his neighbors kind of invited him to his backyard, and his neighbor tells him, "Hey, why don't you pick up that rock right there?" He's like, "Okay." He grabbed a rock, and he's like, "Okay, now we're gonna put it in this like washer machine." He throws it in the washing machine, press start, and he's like, "Come back tomorrow." And he's like, "Okay, weird." So then Steve Jobs comes back 24 hours later. The guy comes out of his backyard and he stops the washing machine and he takes out a perfectly refined circular ball, right? Because what was once a rock with jagged edges, with imperfections, with so much imperfection, is now perfectly refined. Why? Because there's a process of getting banged up in a washing machine, right? And that process actually makes you better. It makes your argument stronger, it makes you
Sure.
stronger. Exposing it to those types of elements actually makes you a better candidate for that conversation moving forward. And
No,
that's
I
what I
agree.
absolutely love.
One of the
Right? So
things you just brought up is I literally, when I was running for governor in 2018, I started a year and a half early.
okay.
And I was doing all live events. I did over 300 live events across New York State during that campaign, and doing 300 live events, unscripted, just taking questions from the audience. It made me really good doing things live.
Yes.
People go, Larry, you're so good live. Yes. In just 1 year, I did 300 live events, and I've done at least another 300 since then.
And that's
So
why
I've
you're
done,
strong and like I'm more weak, you know, because like I don't do this.
I
But
do
now
live
it's
all the
like,
time. Yes.
but now it's going through the
Yes.
process. And right before this, I was like really nervous. You know, I'm like putting on worship music. I'm like trying to get my heart right. I'm telling you, I'm like nervous. And then I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this moment in the scriptures where, you know, Moses said the Israelites were actually they crossed the Red Sea. And I love this imagery of him, you know, parting it with a stick and just walking through. But it's like, how do you walk through it? And
Yeah.
I just have this idea, and or I maybe this is, you
Oh, can
know,
I be
just God
Moses then?
speaking to
Am I
me.
Moses?
You can be.
I'm Moses now. I
You
like that.
you're Moses, and I'm just an Israelite, and I'm walking and but the idea is like, how do you walk through it?
Yeah.
You just go through it.
You just walk through it.
You
That's
just
it.
go through it. Yes, there's gonna
100%.
be water on the side. Yes, you might get
Yeah.
wet. Yes, you might see a fish floating
Yeah.
right beside you. You don't
Yeah.
know. There's gonna be heavy wind, maybe,
These
but you're
these
gonna walk
shows
through it.
too. Like this is my 493rd
Wow.
of this show. Plus, I've also done about 130 Libertarian Drinking Coffee Live, over 200 Sharpe Way radios. So you start adding those up. That's like what, 600, 700, 800 live shows plus my events. I've done over 1,000. I've done so many of them. So that's why I can do this well, because I've done so many of them. I completely agree.
Yeah,
Let me grab another super chat if I could.
that's so good.
Dr. Thunder says, take some money, $5. Thank you, my friend. I'm taking some of the money. I appreciate it. Yes. Lunatic says, for $2, thank you. Joe said he voted for Jorgensen. Didn't do squat. Yeah. It didn't, but I did too. I mean, I did too. So it's just kind of the way it is. Absolutely. It's just kind of the way it is. And sometimes it's not the best, but I think sometimes you do things because you don't have anything else, you wind up virtue signaling because there's
Sure.
nothing else that you could possibly do. So let me grab one more fast. Gene says, people give up when they have no hope. Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Jean's on your side with the hope.
Here we go.
She's on your side with the hope.
Here
She's
we
with
go.
you. Absolutely. So Adrian, thank you for being a member, says Trump performs and delegates. Unity team does the work. Trump takes the credit. He might keep them since he won't be running again. Look, I'm with you, Adrian. I think this is the right move for Trump. I think he should be the Unity team guy. He's the leader
Yeah.
of the Unity people. I think he should. I think he's not presenting it as well as he could.
Sure.
That's my whole piece. So that's my concern. Let me grab another super chat. Peace. Thank you for the $50, my friend. Keep up the good work, Larry and Adam. Many thanks to both of you for caring and making the world a better place.
That's so
I'm
good.
not sure I'm doing all that, but thank you.
You know what I just saw recently?
Go ahead.
I saw this on John. This was with John Cena. I believe he was with one of the most popular streamers on the planet, and he was talking about whenever he was in the WWE, he thought this is my life's purpose to be in the WWE, to just be this high entertainer, and this is what I'm going to do. And then he got into acting, and then he was like, "Oh my gosh, no, this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yep.
This is great. I'm supposed to be a storyteller. I'm created for this. This is great." But he said throughout his journey, he's actually learned that, you know, it maybe is or isn't all that serious. And maybe all I should be trying to do is just to be useful. Like at the end of the day, did I do something good? Did I create good? Right? And did I actually earn this sunset? And I think about that a lot. Like, you know, sometimes I put a little too much pressure on myself or some responsibility because I'm like this is going to change the world. I do believe
Right.
that, you know, like the world does change from from, people who do this. But at the end of the day, even if all I try to do is be useful, then I just think that's enough. I will never be able to be everything to everyone,
Yep.
but maybe I can make some people's lives a little bit better.
I always talk about impact, right? I want to
Yeah.
do things that make impact. And people have asked me, Larry, you run for governor, blah, blah, vice president. You think you're going to save the world? I don't. I never thought I was going to save the world. I never thought that. But do I think that I could be one of the guys who sets it up to be saved? I do. I think I can be one of those guys. I mean, it's
Absolutely.
like a lot of people have set this up, right? It is. I think I can be one of those guys. I
Yeah.
do. I think I can be one of those guys who sets it up to be saved. I do believe that. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make that happen. Guys, we're talking about saving. I want to do me a favor. If you haven't already, please follow Adam on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, at Adam C. Moreno. If you haven't done it, please go do it. He has a YouTube page there too. Please subscribe to his YouTube page. He does videos almost every day, as he says. And they're really good videos. You can watch it. If you haven't clicked the button known as like, I don't know why you hate me. Click the button known as like. Do that button, the button, whatever. Use your nose, your finger, any appendage. I'm not watching. Use any appendage you want.
There we go.
No matter what, please do that. If you're watching on Twitter or on Facebook or on X, please repost this, reshare this, whatever the case may be. If you have not subscribed on YouTube, you are literally robbing me. So subscribe. Subscribe. Or
You're
you
watching
are
this
literally
far.
robbing me. You're
watching this far. You might as well like and subscribe. You're having a good
Exactly.
time. Come on.
Yes. Follow me on Facebook too while you're at it. All the things.
There we
All the
go.
super chatters, thank you. They always go to the front. And then memberships. All the comments I'm grabbing, trying to grab the members first whenever I can. If you're watching on Larry Sharpe YouTube, click the join button, become a member, $5 a month. It keeps things going, makes things go a whole lot easier for us. If you can do
There you
that,
go.
that would be awesome. I do appreciate it. But no matter what, free the button known as like. It is free. Please do so. It would make things a whole lot easier. So, all right, let me grab a couple more of these if I can. All righty. Kintuki says, exactly, Larry, he needs to pull everyone else, not just his supporters. Yes. Yes. I'm totally agreeing with that. That's where my head is. I think the answer is, can we get people to united? That's an answer. Kaylin says, if he gets 2 million, do we get an independent party? No, sadly, we don't. There are certain states that he can get an independent party. I think there's 5, total or something like that he can do because he's pulled himself off of a bunch of state ballots. I think there's only like 2 or 3 left that he could possibly become a party in those 2 or 3 states. A couple of them he can. I think Delaware is one, There's a couple of them that could happen. But he will have to get at least 1 or 2% of the vote, which is possible, could happen, but it wouldn't give him a national party. It would only give him a local state party if that happens. So could it happen? Yes. I don't think it's likely to be forward, but it could happen. I'm not saying no, but I think it's highly unlikely that will happen. I do think he can still get 1 million votes. I do. I think there's enough people who still love him and will vote for him no matter what. I do think he could get 1 million votes, which would still be impressive.
It will be.
The advantage of that would be he'd still have leverage for the future. So that would be something. So yeah.
Do you see something happening in 2028?
Bingo. Guys, Larry Sharpe, Adam C. This is Mike Voss. He goes, Moreno, unity is a 2026-2028 election issue, not 2024. That's assuming MAHA actually gains favor in mainstream. But as is unfocused, like the Tea Party, not likely. See, Mike thinks MAHA can collapse. I do worry that it could collapse. I mentioned it earlier. I'm not so sure that it'll hold. To be forward, I want it to hold. I think it should. Sure. I think unity is the answer for this year. I think Mike is maybe correct in what's going to happen. I think it's a bad idea. I think MAHA should be this year for 2024, pushing forward and going. Otherwise, it'll be destroyed like a Tea Party. The Tea Party got absorbed by the Republican Party and just decimated. I don't want MAHA to happen to MAHA.
Have you seen the latest polling predictions on Polymarket?
No, tell me.
Yeah, so I could, you could share my screen right there. I already put it in.
Yeah,
there it is. So part of my hesitation with, speaking about MAHA more and trying to pick up more of these voters is I see numbers like this, and it almost makes me think, if it's not broken, why fix it? Right? Like this, look at this gap on Polymarket. Kamala Harris at 41.9%, President Donald Trump at 57.9%. Does he really need it? Is now the time to actually be changing the strategy? I
I
don't
would
know.
argue yes
Tell
for
me.
two reasons. Let me
Okay.
give you my pushback. Here's my
Okay.
pushback. I see what you're saying. I get it. I do. And the idea of, only gamble when you're losing. Poly market's one thing,
Uh-huh.
but two things. One, the polling is all over the place.
Sure.
One week it looks like Harris is going to win. The next week it looks like, Trump is going to win. It's going to be down to 7 freaking states. And who's on poly market? It's a whole lot of men. It's a whole
Fair.
lot of men on poly market. That's my
Fair.
issue. Poly market's a whole lot of men. More women vote than men, and more women like Harris. That's just a fact. More women by percentage like Harris than Trump. It's obvious, 100% true, and more women vote. So I'm not taking poly market as
Okay.
the thing. That's the
I hear
reason
you.
why. Number two. So that's number one. The percentages are going to be higher voting than on poly market. So even if you got a bunch, I'm not taking that as a guarantee. But there's a second issue I'm going to add on top of that. And that is, I don't just want a Trump presidency.
Yeah.
I want a Trump presidency that has MAHA in it, or I don't want it at all.
Fair point.
If I was a Trumpster, I would just go be happy voting for Trump. I would have never been on the RFK Jr. train. I'd have been on the Trump train. I'm not. So him winning without MAHA,
Yeah.
I'm not happy about that. That's not great. Not that I want Harris either, but I'm just saying that's not great.
Sure.
The win is the MAHA part. That's how I see it. So I want to add it so that it goes the whole way. That's my issue. So those are my 2 points, my pushback. Go ahead, though, please.
I love how Kitty Goody in the comment section, she wrote, "I'm on poly market. I'm a lady."
Oh, yes, it's not all. No.
Yeah.
It's
I know.
Correct.
Yeah,
Hold on,
sure.
I'll put her up. Is she up here? Where'd she go? Here. Let's see. Proud of it asked, was poly market right last time? Was it even there?
I don't know if it was there. I actually
I
tried
don't think it
figuring
was
it out
there.
last time. I couldn't find an answer.
Yeah. CD says right there, women are voting at large for Harris. Want her rights back. Yes, she is right. Women are absolutely running whole lot. Yep. Thank you, Larry. Yep, absolutely. It's 100% true. Yes, it is definitely there. A lot of women are there. So hold on. Dunso says, poly market, lull, another poll. People are holding out. Nobody will know to actual election day. Maybe.
For sure.
Kitty says, I'm on poly market. I'm a lady. Yes, Kitty, I agree with you. There are women on poly market. There absolutely are. I'm just saying by percentage, there's more.
Yeah, that's a
That's
good point. That's a good point. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's the
interesting.
issue. So Sue, thank you for the $10. She says, Larry, thank you for all that you do. I subscribe to Adam's channel through Larry.
Aw.
Yeah, at least one more, Adam. At least one more.
There we go.
Keep up the good work. I appreciate that so much, Sue. Thank you for watching all the time and for commenting. Kate, thank you for the $5. Thanks for the show. Smoking the hopium for the future. What's Trump's first move in office? Ooh, okay. What's his first move in office? You tell me, Adam. What do you think? Is he going to be doing, if he wins? Now, to be forward, he may lose. But I'm not saying that some people I know are going to win. I'm just saying, assuming he wins, what do you think his first thing is? Is it going to be with MAHA first day? No.
Well, at the time that I saw this town hall with Fox News, and this is where the infamous, like, you probably heard it, where Trump said, like, I'm going to be a dictator on day one.
Yep.
Right. Well, in the actual context, he said, I'm going to be a dictator only on the first day. And I'm just going to close the border. That's the number one issue. After that, we'll continue doing the other stuff. But that's his number one priority, right? So if that's still true, which I think it is, I think that's gonna be what we see as part of his first day plan. So
okay, well, some people are agreeing. Kinsugi says immigration. Kim says the border. Yeah, I think people are agreeing with you on that one. I think that
it needs to be. This is a bipartisan issue. Like. Yeah, 100%. I don't see this having any trouble right now.
Yeah, I do think, I think that the border is going to be, it has to be, right? He spent so much time talking about it. He kind of has to, right? Yeah. Peace Logic, thank you for being a member, man. I agree, Larry. We can all do our part collectively to save this world. Yes, I don't think the people here aren't the people who are going to save the world individually, right?
Oh
But
my gosh.
collectively, we
Yeah.
could.
You know what I just
Collectively, we
heard?
could. Go ahead.
I had a great story from James Clear in Atomic Habits, where, you know,
Okay.
he's talking about building habits and, you know, so much. But he was having this metaphor with a man who's striking this stone, right? And he striked it 100 times and nothing happened. Nothing happens after one, two, three, four, all the way to 100. Nothing happens. But when he striked it 101 times, it shattered,
Mm.
right? But his point is that swing wasn't different the 101st time. The swing wasn't different. It was the same exact thing. But what was different was the effect on compounding, right? It wasn't just
Mm.
1 to 100. It was the fact that each of those swings actually moved the needle and it pushed the reality forward that actually created the stone to ultimately fall apart. So when I see
Mm.
things like, you know, that like collectively saving the world, I don't know. It does really like every single day we all make this choice. And I like when Callie and Casey means they were talking about just being committed to life, right?
Mm.
And having this sort of commitment to like we're feeling good, right? We want our metabolic health to be this. We want to decrease disease. We want to decrease Alzheimer's. And how do they do that? They I think they're doing it right now through, you know, this New York Times bestselling book, right? They're doing it through these podcasts. They're doing it like even today I shared a little clip. It was just a short, but it had
Mhm.
such an effect on me. Right?
Mm.
And it's like these are the things that you continue to see one by one that ultimately has a profound impact on your life. You know, even you, like, were you great after your first live appearance?
No.
Or were you great after the compounding effect of the
Yep.
1000 plus? Right? So
Yeah.
there's,
No, I'm with you.
yeah.
All right. So I do want to grab some more. I have another super chat. Some stuff I want to grab. Before I do that, Adam, please tell the people what you're doing, what's going on, how they can follow you, all the cool things that are happening. Tell them.
You know, I really do this show every day where we talk about, you know, things that are on the line, right? As I say, it's really a political show. We also have some cultural and societal conversations on here as well. We talk Kamala, we talk RFK Jr., we talk Trump. There has been a little bit more of a focus on RFK Jr. Again, I'm not claiming to be biased here. And we love it. I'm also starting a newsletter that I've been publishing, I believe, for the past like 4 months. So sporadically though. I'm trying to be way more consistent on it. I'm thinking about posting like every single Wednesday, like
Oh,
one
okay.
newsletter every Wednesday. I love it. It's under the it's under the same name. It's going to be on Substack. I believe it's part of my links, but I want there to be kind of another extension of the conversations that we have here, because you know on YouTube
Mm.
you kind of have to optimize for the title and the thumbnail in order to get people to watch, but I also
Yep.
want to have different conversations on there. Like one conversation that I'm developing right now is I believe the title is going to be the most dangerous hat of our lives, and it's going to be the Make America Great Again hat.
Look at that.
That's gonna be the focal point. So if you guys really want to if you guys are interested in that conversation, follow me on my Substack, and you can subscribe there. But I'm really excited about
There we
that.
go. I'm happy to do
Yeah.
that. All right. I got two people who are still concerned. Lennon's Lemon says he's not presenting it well. He doesn't actually care. And Human Fly says, I want to hear Trump talk about Maha and Bobby more. Just isn't enough to make me confident. I hear this again and again. I got to, if someone is part of the Trump team, tell them there's people out here like, nope, we're still voting for Kennedy anyway. We don't care. There's a lot of them out there who are still thinking the same way, right? They are going to bounce off and do something else. They're not ready to do it. Yeah.
I am wondering like who are they voting for, if not President Trump? Like is Kennedy on the ballot in those states?
Yeah,
You know,
people are
like
gonna
are
write
they
them in. I know
looking
that
at
I get
okay,
DMs like
okay.
every other day, people saying this all the time on a show all the time, voting for him anyway, don't care, writing him in, voting anyway. They want to give their worry is, and this is what the thing, they're worried that Trump is not going to do the right thing and that Bobby needs to have something for the future. and that if he has a lot of votes, he has a chance for the future. Bobby can run again in 2026 or 2028, or he can support somebody in 2026 or support somebody in 2028. That's their issue. And I get it. It actually, if you don't think Trump will do what he says, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. If you don't believe him. And that's the issue. And I think the Trump team is leaving votes on the table because people like Human Fly, they're going to vote RFK Jr. anyway. You do it anyway.
Yeah.
Because they're going to think that he made a mistake and that they're going to help him. I get it.
Yeah.
And I make sense. I get it.
Sure. The only thing I think I could say is if President Trump hasn't earned your vote, don't vote for him. Right. I like to see it as like a lot of people in my comment section, they write that I'm voting for RFK Jr. through Trump. And I see that a lot, but that doesn't mean people like these exist also, and that's fair, right? Like vote for who you believe is the best expression of the future that you want to live in, right? I think that's all we could do right now. Do I also think he could talk more about making America healthy again? Do I think it could maybe be the focal point of one of his rallies? Would it hurt? I don't think so. Do I think he could do it? Do I think he should do it? I think he can.
Yeah,
right?
I do too.
But at the end of the day, if he hasn't earned your individual vote, what could he do? Right? You got to vote for someone and have complete confidence in them, or at least not complete. No, sorry. It's not complete confidence, but more confidence than anyone else. I'd say, because at the end of the day, there are imperfect candidates. That's okay. Right.
Yes, that actually might be better. I agree completely. Yes. All righty. Let me see if I can grab here a couple more. Kinsugi says, I'd vote for Bobby if I could. Now I may look at Jill Stein. I've heard that too. Yep, I've heard that too. Let's see. Someone else also said the same thing. Gene says, since I live in a swing state, I consider voting for Trump for about half a second. For me, it's Chase Oliver or nobody, though. So yeah, some people there. Daniel says, yes, great job, Adam. Look at you. You got more fans here.
There we go.
You got more fans here.
Thank you, Daniel.
They're all over the place. I agree. That's awesome. So let me ask you, before we wrap things up, Adam, anything you want to talk about before we wrap this up?
One of the conversation that I wanted to share last time we did this on a panel was there was talk about Kennedy being offered the VP slot. He said no. I don't know. I want to know what your thoughts were on that.
Yes. What do I think?
Yeah.
I think that if I was him at that time, I would have said no also.
Really?
At that point, I would have, because at that point, he was still moving forward. At that point, when Trump asked him, Kennedy was still doing relatively well.
And JD wasn't in the picture.
JD wasn't in the picture yet. He was doing relatively well. So that's piece number one that I think I probably would have still said no.
Okay.
That, was he in a spot to where he could have justified it to his team or justified it to his family?
Yeah.
Right. His team does not like Trump, or did not like Trump, but they still do. But the team then did not like Trump. They were more Kucinich people at the time. Right. They didn't like Trump. His family still doesn't like Trump. So how do you then justify that if you're not in a bad spot? Right.
Sure.
But at the end, he was in a bad spot. So he can now justify to the team, we're screwed. Can we do this? Family, I'm screwed. Can we do this? So I think those two things, he wasn't a bad enough spot to justify it to his family and to his team and even to his supporters, right? For many people, you moved to Trump relatively quickly. But as you can see, some people still haven't moved to Trump from him.
Totally fine. Yeah.
And there's a chunk of people who it took time for them to move to Trump. Like they had to kind of accept it and talk about it and figure things out and make that happen. If he had done it that early, the vast majority would have been like, nope, I'm out.
Fair.
They'd be like, nope, I'm out. They would have, they just would have left because they didn't see the whole thing.
It was a different season of the election at that point of the conversation. And then later, JD wasn't even in the picture at that point. I believe Biden was still the nominee, right? Yes. Or about to be. And then it was an entirely different conversation whenever Kamala was inserted, whenever JD was selected the VP, and then he finally decided to suspend.
All right. People bring this up. So I got to bring this piece up. Another super chat. People want to bring this up constantly. So I got to bring it up too. Peace out. Thank you for the $5. Last thought. Why are all politicians not seeing what's happening in Gaza? Have you seen the documentary? It's horrifying. Peace, they all see it. What are you talking about? They all see it. What do you mean? They're not talking about it. Why?
That's different.
There's a big difference on this. There's not one politician goes, Gaza, what's that? There's not one politician who does it. I get Gaza questions every show I do.
Sure.
And I'm not a politician. Every show someone cares about Gaza. I'm not trying to belittle Gaza. I'm not. I'm just saying I wish people would understand something. And I don't mean to be mean on this.
Mm-hmm.
All the politicians know they don't care. I don't mean to be mean. That's not my goal to be mean. My goal is to be realistic.
Sure.
They all know they don't care. If they cared, they would do or say something. They don't do or say something because they don't care. I don't mean
also
to be
think
mean.
They're scared.
There we go. Go ahead. Tell me.
I also think they're scared because I don't think any other conversation aside from, pro-life, pro-choice is as controversial as personal as people's stances are on Israel and Gaza, right? Like in the same way, no, it didn't have the same impact as, like Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah,
like
correct.
The impact that Gaza and Israel has had on this election season has been crazy, right?
Absolutely.
And it seems like no one is happy. No one's happy from Republicans. No one's happy from Democrats. So people are just collectively unhappy. And I think, I don't know, I don't think enough people are talking about it. But
but why would they? But here's the problem. I talk about it in a way that I think makes sense, obviously, because I think so, right? I talk about it practically. And I get hammered in my comments. Hammered. And if I don't say one side is evil and horrible, if I don't say that, I am a horrible human being. I get slaughtered in my comments. Why would I want to talk about it? People don't want to hear it. They just want me to pick a side. All they want me to do is virtue signal.
Come on.
And I'm not, they virtue signal. I'm talking about ending this. Here's the worst part. 2 years from now, Israel's still going to be screwed. They're still not going to have solid borders. And the Gazans still going to be screwed. They're still going to not have a good government. That's still be true. That's what it's been for 50 years. It hasn't changed. It's not going to change. There's going to be a whole lot more dead Gazans, a whole lot more dead Israelis, a whole bunch of money spent, and no long-term change. That's what's going to happen because nobody wants to deal with it because what do? We want a virtue signal.
Yeah.
That's all we want to do is virtue signal. I don't want a virtue signal. I want to actually get the Gazans the government they deserve, and I want to get the Israelis a border they can feel protected on. I would like both of those things to be true, and we're not going to get either.
Did you see what the guy from the Young Turks said? I think he posted this on X, I believe yesterday. He was like, guys, you want me to talk about the Democrats only whenever the Democrats are doing something awesome and it makes you feel good? No.
Yes.
I'm going to call them out whenever they do bad stuff too. If you only want news that is good and makes you feel happy, then you don't want news. You want some empty shrill who just tells you what you want to hear. And that's not right. And I just I got a lot of respect for that guy whenever I read that. I'm like, good for you. That was great.
Yes. No, I think I was on one time with Cenk on News Nation once. And one thing I'll give him, the guy's forward. He tells you what he feels. He's boom, 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 boom. He is that. I'll give him that. He absolutely says what he feels. He's right there with you. That's true. So yeah, I am sorry that I can't give you guys the perfect answer. I mean, I did give the answer. I said how to fix it and I got yelled at. Yeah. So yes, I don't talk about it anymore. I said it, but I got yelled at because it involved things that people didn't like. But yes, it's absolutely true. So, oh my God, so many comments, guys. I'm sorry I could not get to all these comments tonight. I really do appreciate it. I want to say to everybody who's watching, thank you so much for watching. Absolutely. I appreciate it so much. I will be on again tomorrow at 7 p.m. Tomorrow at 7 p.m. I know what I'm talking about. I think I'm doing my broken democracies that you guys have been talking to me about. I might do that tomorrow. Adam, cool. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Guys, please follow Adam. Follow him on Twitter and also follow him on YouTube. And I will see you all. Oh, by the way, sorry, one more thing. Please, after this is over, head back on to wherever you watched it and put a comment.
There we go.
Put a comment. Because when you put a comment, you know who loves that? Mr. Rhythm. Al for Rhythm. He loves it. It makes him very happy. So please do that. I will see you all